Hello, Alan Ryder, Southeastern Railway Museum. This is our switch engine, former Southern Railway 8202. It's an SW7. In the last video, we reassembled the trucks for it. Right now it's sitting on dummy trucks. Now we're going to continue the process by jacking it up, pulling the dummy trucks out from under it, putting the rebuilt trucks under it. So, without further ado, we will proceed. These are the trucks we rebuilt in the last video for 8202. So these are the ones that will go under it. First step, of course, will be to jack up the locomotive, and then we'll pull the old ones out and put the new ones in. The way we do this project is we use these screw jacks to jack the locomotive up, pull the old trucks out, put the new ones in. These jacks, just information, are 35-ton Whiting screw jacks. They're pretty much a staple of most running repair railroad shops, but be it car or locomotive. It can easily pick up a locomotive, at least most locomotives. The really big ones, that's a bit more of a challenge. They do make bigger than 35-ton jacks, but so these are all in position. We've already tested it out one time and had it up in the air. So next step is, again, going up. All right, without further ado, we are going to start jacking this locomotive up. And the process will be, we'll jack it a little bit, and then we'll take a look and jack a little bit more until we get it high enough to roll the trucks out from under it. And here we go.
Ready?
All good? Looking good on my end. Looking good over here. Looking good. That'll do.
Okay, so here she is up in the air. The jacks are up. They can still go up higher, but we're only going to go as high as we need to. So here's all the goodies underneath the locomotive. Okay. All right. Next step, we got it up in the air high enough, we hope. Next step will be, of course, we got to shut the breaker off and disconnect these cables. It'd be kind of embarrassing if we rolled over the cables.
Yeah, we'd be stuck then.
I mean, we'll pull the trucks out from under it, probably using human power. Everybody ready?
It's not going to work.
This probably won't take very much to move it.
Yeah, it definitely won't.
Yep, there she goes.
Ryan, don't let it run over you.
Yeah.
I won't.
Holy crap, we're moving something. Watch your step on while you guys back up.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, oh, yeah, this is quite easy. Alright, Elijah, you might wanna...
Okay, why don't you stop, or let it stop by itself. We'll take the chain off.
Yeah, push it.
Yeah, set the chain to the side.
Are you going the other way?
All right, we roll this probably just past the end of the chain.
Okay.
And there we are.
Love that sound.
think we can.
Alright, so when it gets close to that fuel tank, be careful.
Alright.
In case it tries to sag.
You know what? It's fine.
I don't think y'all can manually make that thing tip over.
Oh, probably.
Get this thing right in. It's clear it's got about 2 inches of clearance every day.
Right there watching it.
Alright.
Now the test is whether or not the cylinders will clear that pilot.
What are you thinking?
Oh, that's just a.
Now keep going.
Keep going, you got it.
Yeah, he clears. Call that clear.
Well, I would hope if one clears, the other one would.
Look at that, we're all off.
What we're doing now is we're bringing some stands in because we're going to have to lower the locomotive down to do some work on the underframe before we can bring the trucks in. So these are stands that actually they came from Southern Railway or NS's Pegram shops. So that's why they say SD70 only on them. But we're going to get them approximately in position and then we'll lower the locomotive down.
All right, we go.
Everyone ready?
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 Get it, Nick?
Yes, I did. Move it in a little bit more just so it's not out.
I think you ran yours a little bit longer than he did, so.
It's okay.
So to see,
He's got more of a gap.
yeah, he's got more of a gap than that side. Alan, what you wanna run yours down just a smidge? Yeah, a little bit more. A little bit more. That's good. That's good right there.
Okay.
Everything's still.
I didn't have one. That's why they're called.
So this is the underside of the locomotive. This is what's called, depending on who you ask, either the center casting, the stump, the car body bolster. There's a variety of names and probably some you can't print, but the way this works is that sits inside the bowl of the truck and that carries the entire weight of the truck. These parts on the side, those are the side bearings, and that's so that as the truck slews or the locomotive rocks, it doesn't rock too much. There's a critical relationship between the side bearings and the center plate, and it's important that the spacing be just right so the truck can swing but the locomotive can't rock too much. So we have some work to do. There's supposed to be a ring that's welded onto that center casting. It's a little spacer, and it's not on here. It's a wear ring. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. So that's the next thing we got to do, is to weld those in place. And then we'll bring the other trucks in. There's some liners that go in the truck bowl. We'll deal with that later and bring them underneath the locomotive and check everything that fits and go from there. One of the things that we need to do, I don't know how well this video is going to come out, but this is the bottom of the front center casting, and this is where the cooling air for the traction motors, or the front traction motors, comes through and goes into the truck. And if the video is right, you can see that it's pretty gross and disgusting up in there, and that's all got to be cleaned out, especially especially since we're going to have to weld that ring around here, and we really don't want some kind of fire. So that's going to be a fun task. And this piece here is a, I think, a pipe that provides oil to lubricate this center casting. It drips down around here. You fill it up periodically from inside the car body. So that's part of the reason why we're not dropping the trucks on it right away, because we have all these little exciting things to do. So this particular one, the front, is loaded with oil and grease, and that's pretty typical of older, well, any locomotives. The oil gets in there and then drips down, and it ends up all over the place. Okay, now it's Christmas time. These are the parts that we needed. Thank you for John Jaros at Horizon Rail, who gave us a lot of technical advice and provided the parts. So what Elijah's opening up are the wear rings that I mentioned a little bit earlier for the go on the center casting. These are like gigantic steel washers. They're also hardened steel, so you can take those off, pick those up, or take the whole box and we'll bring it in the shop, and then we'll come back and get the other box. It's got nylotron and a variety of other wear plates that go on the truck.
Look at that.
Those are the dust guards. Those are rubber rings that go around the truck bolster and protect it from dirt and dust. And what he's got there are the wear rings that actually sit in the bowl of the truck. So, hold on just a second. So it goes over there between the brake cylinders on the truck. So, and then these are the they call them half rings. They go around the edge of the truck bowl. The bottom of the center casting cleaned, and we've got the ring in position. Next step is we're going to tack weld it in place and then take the jack out of the way. So this is where we are on welding the wear ring in. Okay, now we're tacking the wear ring in place. So what we're doing now is to heat the area up to make a better weld. So we're going to try to go for about 150 degrees, or until we get tired of holding the torch. We got Elijah's doing the torch right now. Nice and toasty hot now, so the guys are getting ready. We're going to start doing the welding. Go for the glory, gentlemen. And here's the finished product. The ring is welded on, skip welded all the way around, so ready for the next step. We are looking up into the center of the front truck center casting. This is the air duct that provides cooling air to the
front two traction motors. That copper tubing that you can see coming down and going into the wall of the center casting is actually an oil line that when you do periodic maintenance on the locomotive, you put a little bit of oil in a reservoir up above by the air compressor, and it runs down and lubricates the section of the center casting in the truck to provide lubrication and such as the truck swivels. This one was completely plugged up and damaged, so I had to drill it out and replace it. The one on the rear truck was plugged up too, so we were able to clear that one. So this is just another example of what I'll call unforeseen items to take care of.
All right, we're going to jack this thing up to truck it now.
Ready?
A little bit more. A couple more. Find the trench.
When we can, we'll use the car movers to get it in close once we get the locomotive down. All right. Welder's done. Okay. Okay, we got the trucks under the locomotive. We moved them under their own power. Now we're going to lower it back down. Get it at least approximately in place.
Yeah, it looks like we got, we're too far forward. Yeah, just a little bit though.
You want to try to push it back?
Yeah, I got you.
Doesn't take much.
All right, here we go. Ready, Alan?
Yes, go. Whoa.
Yep.
Coming down.
Coming down, clear.
That one fit?
All right.
What's up? That one's going in.
All right. Got to fit. Excellent.
Close. It's kind of close in front.
Where's the?
When a project like this is going, obviously the focus is on getting the job done. So video sometimes takes a back seat, which is the case this time. So I'll try to explain what all was happened in the video you just saw. When we lowered the locomotive down, the rear truck and everything went on just fine. There's no problem at all. The front truck was a little bit more of a challenge. It was easy to line them up forward and backward, but in the case of the front truck, it was off to this side, and the locomotive was off to that side, so it wouldn't quite line up. So the solution, it's pretty common, the solution that can be used is to jack one side of the locomotive up a little higher than the other. So we ended up tilting the locomotive like this with the idea that the bolster, center casting will drop into the bolster. Well, that helped, but it didn't help enough. So ultimately we ended up taking our backhoe and pushing on the side of the truck, which was just enough to get it to go in. So it's in now. It's down on the center castings. Everything's lined up. Next step is we need to work on several next steps. We need to take care of the side bearing clearance on the rear truck. The front truck turns out to be fine. And then we're going to need to hook up the motors and then a few other things. We didn't have a convenient way to move the trucks under the locomotive by pulling them with a locomotive or a piece of equipment just because the track is blocked. So we resorted to using this welder, DC motor, DC welder. So that's what you saw as the trucks moved by themselves. We adjusted the current. It takes about 150 amps to get them moving, and then probably about 100 to keep them moving. So we got it moving and then backed off so that the guys could control it and roll them both into position. So that's what you saw as they moved by themselves. This tool is called a car mover. It uses very simple leverage to move very heavy objects. So this is what we use to get the trucks in the final position. I've just got it sitting on our dummy truck because it's easier to see what it does. But it's got a little foot on it, so all you have to do is to push down on the lever and it will move lots of stuff. It'll move a car, it can easily move the truck, and that's what we used. What we're doing right now is installing wear plates on this rear truck. There weren't any wear plates on the truck, so we dropped the locomotive down, measured it, and figured out what we needed, which in this case turned out to be 1/2 inch. So they're clamped in place, and Nick is just about ready to weld them down. And we have one wear plate welded in place. Some of the traction motor cable cleats on this locomotive were missing or damaged. They're made out of oak or some sort of wood. Oak is, at least in my opinion, preferred. Unfortunately, oak, like that block there, is a little bit hard to find at your typical home center. But I burn a lot of firewood, and it's usually oak, and I have a table saw. So with a little bit of magic, we made some new cleats. So I've got 3 of the 4 traction motors connected. This is number 1. We'll wander over here. Number 2. And number 3. Some were easier to connect than others. All we have left is number 4. So crossing our fingers, it won't be too challenging. Sometimes half the battle with this project is trying to get into a position where you can do the work. And it takes the skill of a contortionist sometimes. first step is to put the traction motor insulating boot on. And we struggled with the first one. I tried to use electrical conduit pulling lube to lubricate them, and that didn't work very well. So I phoned a friend, John Jarros with Horizon Rail. He does this all the time. He also does a lot of, he has a locomotive leasing business and repair. And he said, use silicone. And it works. These boots do need to be tight, and I just put the wrong one on. We'll get to that eventually. I'm working my way from back to front. So this is the double F lead. It's closest to you on the camera. Grab another boot. Move it up. Make sure I still got the right one. They're still not particularly easy. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I get the right carbide lead. Should be the one furthest away, but fortunately, our guys marked these. Right there it says FF. Just one of the two field leads. So I like to call this wrestling pythons because it's kind of what you're doing. Not always the easiest in the world to get in position or get connected. We'll try another trick brought to you by make sure you do these the right way. Same friend I mentioned, John Jarros, said use 2 pipe wrenches. You get good leverage. Miracles. It worked. In. Actually, I'm a little bit further than I needed to. That's okay.
booted. Now all I gotta do is get them in these brackets. Well, getting the leads up, or getting the leads connected is generally the easier part. The more challenge is to get these leads up into these clamps. So that's the next step. Well, the camera battery was trying to die on me, so I went ahead and got them hooked up off camera. Like a couple of the other leads, these carbide leads are just a little bit too long, so I couldn't really push them all the way up into the carbide to get the leads exactly in the clamps where they're supposed to be. So I did the best I could. So you can see the leads, the clamps down pretty tight. Upper one and the lower one. And to get them compressed enough to get a nut started, I used this jack, which was convenient to have, and then a C-clamp on the bottom one to get that squeezed in. So I got them squeezed in and got them tightened down, so all is good. Quite a struggle, but it's done. Well, we've got everything back together. Motors are hooked up. Got oil in the center castings. Got the dust guard boots kind of sort of in position. The clamps aren't really much more than a joke, so we're going to drop it down. Those blocks will hold it up enough so we can see to be sure the center casting goes into the truck frame like it's supposed to. So all is good, we hope. Hopefully this will be the last job for the jacks for a while. Well, she's down in her trucks. Everything is mostly okay. Despite my careful measurements, the side bearing clearance on the rear truck is a little bit too tight. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little less. So we're going to have to make a shim, giant washer, probably about a 1/16 of an inch thick. Jack her back up enough to slip the shim in. So that'll be it for this so far. Side bearing clearance is just a wee bit too tight. You can just barely get a hacksaw blade shoved in there. So, well, I found a piece of material to make our spacer, shim, whatever you want to call it, out of. Found it buried in the weeds. It's a blast from the past. Southeastern Railroad Museum was in a location about a mile or so away. About 20 years ago we had the opportunity to acquire the space we're in now. We'd outgrown the old space. This facility here is actually a former rail car repair facility. So it took us about 2 or 3 years to get everything decent enough to be open for the public. So this was the sign we used until we got the place opened.
And here's the finished product. Cut from the sign, 3/32 of an inch thick, just right. All cleaned up, ready to go. It will.
Okay. I mean, you didn't have to make it the full width,
Make
probably.
sure it fit the truck, the dummy trucks. Okay, we tried to pull the Nylotron bowl liner out so we could put this under it, and that didn't work. It's in there for the count, so we're just going to put this on top. It really shouldn't make much difference. You know, it's got a lot of lubrication and it'll wear, so hopefully it'll fit. Hopefully it will fit.
Maybe a burr on the side of the centerpiece. I don't know. Oh, well, there's your liner.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Well, this isn't quite happening the way we expected, but it may get. All right, take the other bowl line. This one. Splash.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that one back in. This one, very carefully. Get your end lined up and then I'll drop.
Go ahead.
Here's a view with the proper side bearing clearance. This stick is about 1/8 of an inch thick, and you can see it slides right in the way it's supposed to. So we got that sorted out. What you see here is the safety hanger for the truck. This retains the truck in position. It's a fairly heavy casting, so it's difficult to get into position because you got the brake cylinder, which is this thing right here, right next to it. So didn't try to film it. Took one person on either side to lift it up into position and then shove the bolts through to tighten it up. But they're all in position now. Hooking up brake cylinder hoses now.
Yeah, we did literally the hardest part.
Really? Not super tight, but tight enough that it'll kind of line everything else up.
Okay, that's probably good.
So, got the brake cylinder hose connected. It was a bit of a struggle with bolts with paint on them and such as that, and didn't quite want to go in, but anyway, it's on. Brake cylinder hose, right rear. Got 3 more to go. Alright, one final task, go ahead. One final task is to hook up the handbrake chain. So, handbrake chain's hooked up. All we need to do now is spread the ears on the cotter key and all is good. Well, we are basically done at this point. Trucks are installed, traction motors are connected, brake lines are connected, side bearing clearance is correct. We even put some air on it and checked brake operations, and after fixing a few leaks, the brakes are working fine. I have a few more things to do, so we're going to wrap this video up at this point, and the next video will be finishing up all the little details internally, charging batteries, checking out the brake system completely, pre-lubing the engine, cranking it over, and making smoke. Hopefully the smoke will be coming out of the stacks and not some other place. But that's about it. We thank you very much and hope you enjoy.